All right. Hello, America and World Patriots. This is LW. Glad to have you guys along for this interview that I am doing with Karen again. It is Wednesday, um, August the 17th, 2022. And we're excited to finish this series with Karen. She has put in a lot of effort to try to do this interview with me. We've had some serious technical difficulties with her on Restream. And so we had to go to Zoom to do this interview with her. So I hope you guys appreciate her effort and appreciate the material and the subject matter that she wants to share with you guys. I think it's important for people to understand what's going on because there's a lot of it happening out there. And with that being said, I want to introduce my guest, Karen, from deep, deep in the woods. How are you doing this evening, Karen?
Hey, how are you? It's actually lovely in the woods.
You almost have to escape to the woods just to get out to where you could do this interview. It's so crazy. You are one of maybe two guests I've ever had on the show that have had so much technical difficulty. And I think the other guest, it's more of the equipment maybe type of stuff. But you, in your case, it really seems like things follow you around and kind of plague you. It's kind of strange where we go in your basement, we go in your room, we go outside, we go to the park, and it's no matter what we try to do here at LWN, we can't seem to ever get a really solid communication with you. And I know last time we had you to schedule to come on, it was impossible. The time before that, it was choppy and stuff. So I'm very grateful that we have this Zoom call with you, and the video's crystal clear, the audio's crystal clear, and we're good to go, Karen. So welcome to LWN again.
Thank you very much. And thank you for sticking with it. I really appreciate it. The subject is how the FBI fusion centers target individuals they know are innocent. And it's to bloat the watch list so that they can report that there's all kinds of threats out there. Never mind that none of them are Muslim. No, none of them are. They're all American, which is a bait and switch, of course, from 9/11, and they always intended it. I happen to be a whistleblower. I was trying to report something that looked very much like espionage inside the NSA, and that pretty much ruined my life. So this episode, we were going to talk about the fact that it's not only whistleblowers, but it's a lot of other people. A lot of them are random. Some of them are whistleblowers. Some of them are journalists. Some people have asked questions somebody didn't like. Some people have inheritances or property or intellectual property, somebody with connections once. So they want these people targeted and destroyed so they can walk in and take over. So this is myriad cases of human trafficking at a very intensely sophisticated level done by government people along with contractors and their cronies and anybody who basically will say, yeah, I'll help you. So it's a huge predatory effort against the United States in general. And if you're not part of the club, it's too bad. You're a target. And this plays out because now they're telling people who go to school meetings that you're a terrorist because I don't want son or daughter.
Hold on just a second, Karen,
Go ahead.
because you made some really good points that I want to really highlight. One,
Sure.
the comment about if you're not in the club, you're targeted. We are seeing unfold right here in America a two-tier justice system. You're seeing the Gestapo, the SS from 1930s come in under the Biden regime and attack another political opponent as a candidate and a nominee of the 2024 elections. You're seeing that with the raid on Mar-a-Lago. So that part, you just made a connection to that. The second part to that is talking about parents going to school board meetings. So I just did a headline hits a couple of days ago talking about this very thing. There are whistleblowers inside the FBI that have come out and said, hey, listen, we have been pressured to change the title to some of these cases involving parents going to school board meetings as domestic extremists. And they're blowing the whistle on it right now and becoming targets themselves. So Karen, thank you so much for sharing this information with people, because this is reality. This is the reality that we live in. If you don't believe in the left's propaganda, ideology, you're target, period.
And that target is to destroy your life. It's not just to ping you on the nose and say behave. It's to destroy your life and very potentially all of your families. And we were talking before, I said I wanted to talk about, I mean, there are so many TIs that targeted individuals, and the vast majority are targeted by fusion centers to bloat the watch list, et cetera, et cetera. There are some who are targeted by rogue military bases and posts around the country. You know, one post may be targeting people around them, and the 100 miles over, there's an Air Force base that has no idea anybody's doing anything bad. So it is very up and down as to who is actually part of this rogue effort. But it is military and civilian, but the civilian is really directed by FBI fusion centers with, of course, DHS above them. But what I wanted to say was that the vast majority of people I've spoken with, and there are about 3,000 people on my Facebook account, and we deal with this mostly. But the vast majority, to be targeted, one, you get called out and they say, okay, we want Jim Brown targeted. And the next thing they want to do is not only look at every aspect in your life to figure out what kind of lie can they tell about you to get the FISA court to get a warrant, a surveillance warrant on you. You know, if you do this, maybe we can make it into that. You know, maybe we can exaggerate. We can say this person that he deals with, that his Uncle Joe, who's almost senile, is actually a terrorist. You know, I mean, they look for anything, everything to create a false dossier, and you know they're masters of that. If they do that, government sitting president, they're going to do it to anybody. So you are vulnerable, and they figure they can get away with it. That's why they did it with Trump. But they make up stuff to give to the FISA court, and with a wink, wink, nod, nod, the FISA court goes, oh yeah, sure, he's a terrorist, sure, and we give you permission to hit him with whatever weapons. Well, we give you permission to hit him with surveillance, you know, and it actually turns out to be electromagnetic weapons, and sometimes it's actually war grade poisons and gases, which I don't even know how do you protect from that. I mean, I protect somewhat from the electrical assaults, but that's complex, and I didn't even know how you even begin with the poisons and gases. You know, one lady I know, her doctor said, how do you even breathe? Your lungs are destroyed. I don't even know why you're alive. So that's how bad it can get. But anyway, I wanted to say that when they decide Jim Brown or whoever is a target, they basically figure out a way to get a GPS chip in him so they know where he is every second of every day within inches. He can be in a building full of 100,000 people, and they know exactly where he is within inches. So they get a GPS chip into him, and I know how they got mine in. And they also then figure out how to put multiple chips, maybe behind one ear and in a nasal cavity, so they can actually target your brain. They can send these electromagnetic pulses to your brain to give you brain damage.
Okay, can we just pause there for just a minute? Because I want to just drop some data points. I don't know if they have any connection to what Karen's saying or not, but let's just go back to 2020 and let's talk about the sickness, and remember the stuff that they really enforced to tell people you have to go get tested. What did they do? They wanted to cram this big long Q-tip right up your nose and touch your brain barrier, blood-brain barrier. Nanotechnology, mRNA vaccines, and we're talking microchips in there, and it's been proven. Heck, I've even seen an article come out of Michigan where there is actually an employer there who has already chipped all of their employees. They all signed up for it. They're all willing to do it. They put microchips right here in their hand. So when you talk about this stuff, Karen, I want to be clear to everybody. This isn't just science fiction. I know some people are saying, "Oh, come on, Mike, come on, Karen, that ain't true." Really? It's already been happening. And then we fast forward to 2020, where they start telling everybody to protect your neighbor and to protect grandma. Let's start putting these vaccines in our bodies. These things have nanotechnology in them, and it's been proven. So when Karen says they have to find ways of getting you GPS chipped, there's just a couple right there. We're talking the Q-tip. We're talking the vaccine. We're talking about hand chips. We're talking about she'll even maybe go into some other things when we're talking about major surgeries that people have had, which I've had a major surgery on a hernia, which concerns me at this point because they completely put me out, Karen. So I was out for the entire surgery. I have no clue what they did to me or what they put in my body while I was on that table.
No, that's the danger. That really is. I mean, the way that I got GPS chipped was that I was leaving from Maryland. I live in Maryland. That's where I went. That's where I worked for NSA, unfortunately. And I went down to Florida to visit my parents, very elderly. I mean, I'm in my 60s, so, my parents are elderly. So I went down there to help them out some. And before I left, I made the mistake of thinking maybe I should get the flu shot so I don't bring something to them, even though I don't get a flu shot. I'd rather have the flu. So I got one, and I didn't realize NSA was still listening to my phone calls. And they said, aha, she's going to get a shot. So we're going to intervene, and we're going to give her the shot that we want her to get. So I got this quote unquote flu shot, and I'll be darned if something in that shot didn't try to keep coming up, back and out of my skin. I said, what the heck is this? I mean, the lump is getting, longer and taller under my skin. And I almost went to the doctor to say, could you remove that? Which I should have. It was a GPS chip. So when I got down to Florida, I had somebody tailing me all over the place. I said, what the heck? Well, NSA was mad because I sued them, and we had gotten some information that they didn't want in the lawsuit. So they're trying to intimidate me. So they went down to Florida and had them target me through the fusion center. And again, what happens is that at that point, they decided to use the directed energy weapons on me. So they needed to do a couple more things. What they needed to do was put chips, one behind each ear and the nose, that they could triangulate on the brain to fry you, and they also needed to get nano in me. The nano was because we were talking about the fact that the directed energy weapons, they want to hit certain people at a low strength because they want to fry them over time and make it look like a natural death. If you hit them full on with a directed energy weapon at high capacity, you're going to have a French fry, and there's going to be no question what happened to that person. So with enemies of the state, people who know that they're criminal.
Oh, Karen, we lost you there for a second.
Lower in the. Go ahead.
We're losing you, but it's on my side. My internet's unstable for some reason. I got you back. So go ahead and finish. You were talking about the triangulation and the direct energy weapon. Go ahead.
Right. Well, we were talking about what they do to prepare the target for the torture and or murder. One is we just already said the GPS, so they can figure out where you are every minute of the day. And the second is to get at least three chips, at least. One in the nasal cavity, two either in the ear canal, one behind, or one in, and that triangulates on your brain. And they can do things to aim certain things at your brain. And that usually gives you brain damage. And then they want to get nano chips in you because the directed energy weapons, when they go through people, most people don't feel them if it's at a lower level, and they love to do it at a lower level and raise it throughout the day and go back to the lower end of the strength at the beginning of the day and raise it. And that's protocol. That's the way they do it, because what they're doing is they're damaging your body in such a way that unless the coroner is military and knows about directed energy weapons, he's not going to understand what you died from. So they want to do it gradually. And so that's why they have the chips in there, because they catch and reflect the directed energy weapon energy back into your body. They mirror it back into your body so that you feel it. You feel like you're burning to death. And the directed energy weapons will go through a person next to you or through everybody in the house, who doesn't have that done to them, and they won't feel it except for exposure to it for days at a time. My brother came to stay with me because he didn't quite know what I was talking about. So I said, come stay with me. And, 4 or 5 days into his week-long stay, he said, I'll be damned. He said, what is that? You need to talk to me about what he was feeling. And I said, that's the weapon. That's the weapon.
Wow.
And he said, oh my,
Let me ask you this question, Karen. Do you believe that you've had any implants in your navel cavity and behind your ears? Do you feel like you've had that yet?
Yeah, I do think so. One thing that happens is that all of a sudden you get tinnitus and you never had it before. Okay, so that happened to me. And the other people who talk about being implanted, most of them will remember a missing time period. Okay, they will have missing time at some point where they can't account for several hours. I had that. I was, again, visiting my parents. They actually went off for a week to visit a sister of mine. I was left dog sitting. There were 4 big dogs, 3 of them mine. And those dogs are huge, 100-pound dogs, right? So every day at 6 o'clock, they need out, or you're going to have a swimming pool in the living room. Okay. So believe me. So one day I woke up and looked at my clock and I said, it's 11 o'clock. And I jumped up because I just knew the dogs had just wreaked havoc and they were all sleeping. Those dogs never sleep till 11 o'clock. All 5 of us slept till 11 o'clock and we're waking up at the same time. So there's my missing time, and after that, certain things changed and I realized, yeah, I've been chipped and I'm getting triangulated and getting basically heated up and burning brain. I tried to take painkillers and they did nothing. And then when I switched over to anti-inflammatories, bingo. Well, what does an electromagnetic weapon do to your brain? It inflames it. So I knew at that point, something was terribly wrong. And I compared notes with other people, and that has to have been what happened.
So how do you think they got the chips in you?
They broke in the house and inserted them. And these people are masters of getting into anything. They can get into a safe, into a house, into a car, anything. There's nothing you can keep them out of. Absolutely nothing.
Why do you feel like they might be keeping you alive right now? Because like you said, they could basically just fry your brain. You could just become a vegetable in a matter of minutes.
I think I'm shielding too well. I sued NSA and the lawsuit went to the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It went to the EEOC in 2010. NSA tried twice to get the judge to just dismiss it. Don't look at it. Don't look at anything she's saying. Don't look at any of the evidence. Just dismiss it because we're telling you it's frivolous. Just don't look at it. And the judge said, no, I'm looking at it when it comes time. And then 8 years later, he went to quote unquote look at it and he contacted my lawyer and said, oh, well, there's nothing in your case. It's empty, completely empty. Somebody's gutted it, which means somebody stole a federal case, which is a felony. And he said, well, I'm just going to dismiss it. No, that's a felony too. So he refused to report it. He refused to have it investigated. And he refused my lawyer offering to send everything that was in the case to him overnight. Just FedEx it. I've got copies of everything. I'll send you everything. Nope, it's dismissed. Well, they got to him, either bribed him or threatened him. So they were desperately, I think, trying to kill me before it got to the point that the case was up to be seen, because it was 8 years. And that was getting a little long even for a federal case to sit there. And they panicked and said, well, we're just going to steal it and tell the judge, shut up or you're dead. So they have and off tried to kill me.
So if somebody feels like maybe they have the same symptoms that you have, maybe they feel like they've been chipped, how could they combat that? And of course, some people will make the joke, well, why don't you just put on a little tinfoil hat? What are the things that people can do to try to combat if they feel like that's happening? Because I do have somebody close to me in my circle that was telling me something very similar to what you just said the other day. They had said it felt like somebody had grabbed their scalp and pulled it back and it was just burning. The whole top of their head was just burning. And they were pretty concerned about it, actually. And I know that they'd heard about you. They'd heard about you coming on our channel and the things that you were sharing with people. What's some of the things that maybe people can do to combat this?
Well, I will tell you, they did try something called V2K, and every so often they try it. But V2K, voice to skull, is pulsed microwave transmission of sound to your bone. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of it, but to your ear. I mean, bone conduction. So they will, at times with certain people, use V2K, and they will just yammer, 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 yammer in their ear and make them crazy and just like, shut up, you know? And there are sometimes that they say, well, you're ugly, you're fat, you're blah, why don't you just go kill yourself, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they will do that to somebody 24/7. So they tried at first in Florida to send certain noises and things like that. And my room where I was building what I call a bunker, you know, because there's certain materials that will deflect some of this. But I had a lot of very strong magnets. I had a lot of mirrors, and especially the old fashioned kind with the silver lining, silver backing. And when they started to do that at first, it bounced from all these different mirrors and magnets, and the noise came out in the room instead of my head. Now, if you get V2K, you're going to get brain damage. I saw an interview with Putin, President Putin, when it may be before he was president, but it might have been just as he was president. But he said, we used V2K in the Cold War to communicate with our agents in Western Europe because we didn't want them discovered. But then we found out it gave them brain damage. So he said, we quit doing that. But our government is doing that to us, knowing full well it does cause brain damage. It's microwave. It's also called the Frey effect. But that is pulsed microwave, and you are damaged. And the thing is, here's another setup. One of the setups they want, if they don't want to kill you immediately, is they want you in an insane asylum. So they try to make you look crazy. Okay, so that once you
let's pause. Let's just pause for just a minute right there, because I think that's a really good topic. People who possibly could be hearing voices in their head, and I know that there are legit voices in your head, and then there are legit voices in your head. That is a great tactic. If you use something like that, and the reason why I say that, Hollywood, in a lot of the movies, and I know that this is probably actually techniques that military uses, they'll throw you in a little padded room or a little concrete cell, and they'll sit there and they'll play things like really loud, obnoxious music, or they'll play things that just constantly repeat itself on a loop 24/7. And they do that to mentally break you. And what you're saying here, Karen, about them chipping you, and then these voices are in your head to where you become crazy, and somebody 302s you and throws you in a mental institution. That's a real thing.
It is. And once you're there, they can do anything to you that they want, you know, including some experiments that they can't do to you while you're up and walking around, you know, and you're in the public eye. They can't do that. But once they get you inside an insane asylum, they can lobotomize.
Yeah. You know? So once you're in a mental institution, then the first thing they try to do, in my opinion, I've never been in one, thank God, not yet anyway. They drug you. They drug you heavily. They sedate you to where you're basically a walking zombie. And then at that point, Karen, that's when they start the experiments.
Oh, yeah, because they can give you a drug that makes you do something, and then they say, oh, look, he or she's doing that. That means he or she's crazy. But they just gave that to you, you know? And again, they can do anything that they want to. But the same was setting you up to go to jail, or more likely prison. So they have you long term and can do anything they want to you. Because I have spoken to people who've been in jail for whatever reason, and this is not anywhere near a large portion of targeted individuals. The vast majority have never even jaywalked. Okay, but on occasion.
Let me ask you about the mental institution real quick.
Okay.
Why do you feel that you haven't been 302 yet, or have you been 302?
It was in Florida. It's called Baker acting. When I was there, and let me tell you, to work for NSA, you have to go through a rigorous psychological evaluation as well as a background evaluation. And every 5 to 10 years, not 5 to 7 years, you get a psychological reevaluation to make sure something hasn't gone wrong, shall we say.
Something hasn't snapped.
Exactly. So I went through that for more than 20 years and had, passed with flying colors up until they said, shut up, or we're going to find a reason to fire you. Okay. So at that point in time, even though every single test I'd ever taken with them was pass, they said, basically shut up, or we're going to say you're paranoid and delusional to think that somebody stole your work, got promoted for it. Well, that's exactly what happened. And that came from the promotion board member who told me. So why wasn't she, told she was crazy? But anyway, so they did try to do it in Florida because I made the mistake of trying to explain what was going on to the sheriff's department. And, those are basically high school grads. And in Florida, those are not the best schools. So high school grad is probably wishing for the best. So I tried very patiently to explain what was going on. I emailed them articles and patents and things like that to say, I showed them evidence of my lawsuit against NSA, very calmly and maybe remedially explained to them what was going on. And they got sick of hearing it. And they said, all right, well, we're just going to Baker Act you. They sent me in for a day, and the psychologist for the state of Florida took almost all day to get there. But once he got there, he talked to the intake nurse. I had given her some of the articles that had been written about me. And she said, oh, yeah, we've seen that happen to whistleblowers before, this false accusation. So she got it immediately. And then she talked to the doctor when he came in. He talked to me 15, 20 minutes. And then he said, get out of here. You don't belong here. So they sent me home. There was nothing on my record. They try to destroy you and say, yeah, don't listen to anything she says because she's nuts, But no,
let me step in here. Let me step in here real quick and drop another data point when you speak about law enforcement and how they don't take you seriously and the Baker Act and all that stuff. Stu Peters just put out a video, and I know that you've been on Stu Peters before, Karen, but he just did a documentary that actually hits very close to home for me here in Idaho. The documentary was taken from Boise, Idaho, where, and this is off subject, folks, but just bear with me because I have a point to make, about child trafficking and how the CPS is a big mechanism of child trafficking, and how they actually came and took a child away from a parents here in Boise, Idaho. And when the cops came in, it was crazy. You watched the video. It was absolutely crazy. They didn't believe the parents. It was a full takeover and loss of their civil rights, their parents' rights. And I'm bringing this up for a data point because I want people to realize how serious some of this stuff is and how serious the issues that Karen is bringing to your attention, because it goes, in my opinion, a lot deeper than even some of the stuff that Karen is talking about. These people can have such control over your life that they can, like Karen says, ruin your life. You can lose your job. You can lose your child. And I think that we need to all be aware of their systematic way of trying to do this stuff to some people, because it is, in some instances, the people that are listening right now, it's probably very frightening if you've never heard this before, if this is your first time hearing material like this. But hey, man, it's stuff that I think that people need to be aware of. So sorry for interrupting you, Karen. I just really wanted to make that data point that this is a pretty powerful thing that they got.
It is. I mean, you're watching the United States become Nazi Germany or communist China right before your very eyes. And you've got to recognize that, because you've got to start deciding what can you do. One of the things, and the communists and the socialists would always discredit people by saying, "Whoa, crazy, put them in the asylum and we'll ruin them." Well, that's exactly what they're trying to do here. One of the things that I wasn't really going to speak about, but I'll just touch on this. A lot of the targeted individuals get stalked and harassed 24/7. And there's myriad people who do it. They may go to a church and say, okay, we're going to put all of you on a schedule. You go stalk and harass Fred Wednesday from 8 to noon, and then you take over from noon to 4. And, it's not just one person, but it's like a cell, like a terrorist cell. And then they stalk and harass you. And that is to get you to report that to the police, discredit yourself and make yourself sound paranoid and delusional. And
So
I've told over and over again, don't report that. Don't.
How can we come up with the evidence of that happening? Is this such a hush hush thing, or has there been whistleblowers in the past on that side of things? People who have come out and said, "Hey, man, I was pressured to do this. I was pressured to harass this person. I was pressured to watch this person." Is there any whistleblowers out there at this time that have been sharing information like that?
Well, there's one named Brian Coffrin who's done a couple of, was it Spreakers or something like that. He worked for a private security firm in Washington State, and he basically discovered things were not as they were being represented to him, and that not only innocent people around him were being harmed, but some of the people he was working with were being harmed as well. And he came out to try to speak about it. And of course, they came down on him hard. I'm not quite sure what happened to him, but there are a couple Spreaker episodes out there that he put out. We're getting little bits and pieces from people, but how I would prove it, I don't know that I could. I mean, what you do to prove it to yourself is that you notice various people doing exactly the same thing. One of the things they love to do to taunt you is there are various groups that are like mercenary groups that are called upon and say, "Oh, we got somebody in your area. Would you stalk and harass them for us?" "Oh, yeah, sure. Here's the contract." And some of these groups love to put their signature on it. So you may have a group where everybody who's car stalking you has removed their right front hubcap to show that they're in the group. Or another group may wear purple socks with whatever outfit, or another group may wear sunglasses and a baseball cap, no matter if it's nighttime and a monsoon, So some of them love to do that. So that's where you start putting some of this together. But again, you've got the very same actions being taken against you, but by various people. It's the same harassing, but various people are doing exactly the same thing. So that clues you.
It's been said that their downfall will be their symbols and their symbolism. So what you're speaking of right there is a symbol. It's a type of symbol. It's a signal, and we've seen a lot of that over the last couple of years as we dive into this stuff really, really deep. And I don't doubt that is something that could very well be a signal. And we've seen stuff like that in other areas where they're signaling. I'll give you a prime example. I'll make it pretty simple for everybody watching right now. We get people that jump in chat and they'll put certain things in chat to signal more people to come. So yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's hard as heck to prove. I mean, like I said, I tell people, look, don't report somebody with blue hair is following you. Just don't, because the cops want to jump on anything you say and go, crazy, get out of here. I said, but if they come and they slash your tire, report it. If it's a real crime that you can show and prove, report it. Because what you want is the police themselves to say, man, she's been in here 12 times in the last month. Somebody's really targeting her. It starts to occur to the honest police, something's not right here. And I tell them, don't go tell them you're a target and these people are plotting against you and blah, 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 blah. I said, don't do that. Let the police put it together. If they're honest police, they'll put it together. If they're dishonest, you could have a film of it and they wouldn't believe you. Because a lot of the police are corrupted by fusion centers. Here's one thing that I thought was remarkable. This one, I guess it's a daily duty or duty daily, whatever, something that's the guy sits there at the sheriff's department for that day and speaks to people. And I came in and talked to him about what's going on. And he looked at me funny and he said, he said, follow me to my car. And so we went to his car in the parking lot, his personal car. He opened up the trunk and he took out about 20 folders, Smith, Stewart, Brown, names on these folders. And he said, what was your name again? And I told him, and he flipped through and he goes, He goes, yep. He said, I'm not allowed to help you. And then he put them all back in the trunk and shut it. So what happened in that case was the fusion center gave the sheriff's department about 20 files, let's say. I didn't get to count them. But let's just say 20 files of people they were to deny their legal rights and their constitutional rights and ignore any pleas for help and to refuse to make a police report for them. They were not allowed to. So these are people the Fusion Center said, they have no rights. You are not allowed to help them. That's what he was showing me.
Wow.
It was in the trunk of his car so that I could not go get a lawyer to subpoena records at the sheriff's department.
Gotcha.
Because they would never look in the car.
I'm sure we have people who are hearing this story for the very first time. I know we've talked about fusion centers before, but I can already tell there's probably somebody out there going, what's she talking about? Fusion center. What is a fusion center? So could we dive into that for a couple minutes here, Karen? Can we talk about what a fusion center is, how many of them we think there are, what kind of locations would they be, so that the new listeners that are listening tonight might have a better idea?
Oh, absolutely. After 9/11, if you were alive and somewhere near adulthood at that point, you remember that Congress called in all kinds of agency heads, like the Director of National Security, CIA, FBI. And Congress said, what happened? Why were you not on top of this? And I sat there watching, and I was absolutely dumbfounded at the idea that these people were pushing, which was, oh, that Constitution is kind of, it's in the way. And if we didn't have to abide by that stupid Constitution, maybe we could have stopped it, maybe not. And so they were turning the finger on us and excusing what at the very least was lax. And I came to find out later, no, it wasn't lax. It was on purpose. So what they told the Congress made the Congress amenable to the idea of creating FBI fusion centers all over the nation. And it started out to be maybe one per state, but now it's up to about 80, the last count that I have seen. So some of the bigger states like not Florida, but California and New York, where you're talking either land size or population, some of them have up to 3 fusion centers. I kidded and I said, well, now we're going to have like on the corner fusion centers, for Pete's sake, they keep growing. But what the fusion center is there to do is it houses representatives from pertinent agencies from the federal government, puts them alongside state and local law enforcement and authorities, and they're supposed to share information with each other and fuse it so that they can step ahead of any type of terrorist threat and stop it. Well, in the 20 years that they've been in existence, they have spent billions and billions of dollars, and Congress said, well, can you tell us of any terrorist threat that you detected and stopped? No. Can you tell us of any terrorists that you've identified and jailed? No. Well, what are you doing with the money? Then they're basically telling them it's none of your business. They're telling Congress this, and they're telling Congress like, well, you don't have the clearance. And I'm sitting there thinking, why would somebody be on an oversight committee without clearance to do the oversight? How stupid is that? Because the Congress people, if they are so dishonest they can't get a clearance, why are they Congress people? Exactly. Or if they're fine, why can't they get a clearance? Why can't you tell them what you're doing with the money? Because they don't want them to know what they're doing with the money. They're paying it out to civilian thugs to harm people, and then they're reporting that back as success. Oh, we're just really trashing these terrible terrorists, and we've kept all this stuff from happening because of our human, and they're calling it human intelligence. They're not humans. Fusion center operatives, InfraGard, which is a civilian group that is, I'm going to say they're neo-fascist. Okay. There's also COPS, COPS, and I forget what that stands for, community something based, COPS or civilians. They're also neo-fascists that basically only want the money. They're getting gift cards and they're told, don't report that as income because it's money laundered. It's our tax dollars laundered into gift cards to harm people. And when I say harm people, it's not only with the weapons, the poisons, the gases, electromagnetic weapons, but they put them in car accidents on purpose to harm them. Well, can we kill this one today? Darn, we only broke her back. Well, how about she has 3 dogs? Let's kill a couple of them, see what kind of stress that makes. And they also try to get people to react. Because if somebody comes along and does whatever, and it just throws you off and you just react and go next door and punch the neighbor because you know he did it, then the Justice Department says, we told you a long time ago, we did a pre-crime on that person and we just knew they had it in them to hurt somebody, after we sat there and provoked them 24/7 for 3 years.
Okay, let me hop in here because you got some other things here that I'd like to talk about. You just dropped the word pre-crime, and we're losing you there, Karen. We're losing you. I wanted to bring up the topic pre-crime because what you just said was they are using this platform, this agency, to claim that they're out there getting in front of crimes, and these pre-crimes they're actually eliminating them because they're spying on people and they're doing their job. Then why is it, if that's the case, why is it that just today alone I read in the newspaper where there were at least 6 different articles in the newspaper talking about illegal aliens that have crossed our border and not only committed one crime, but then they were released back into society here in America and turn around and have done multiple crimes. So why aren't we using those facilities to eliminate those type of crimes? I just don't understand. I don't understand why we're having such a hard time here in America keeping that stuff kind of out of this country, so to speak. And then to top it all off, my other data point, which we just lost Karen, but we'll see if she pops it back in here in a minute. I want to talk about the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act that was just formed right after 9/11. And now I was back in 2000, 2001, I was roughly about 21 years old. Or actually, no, I was older than that, about 24, 25. And I thought the Patriot Act was a great thing. I thought, all right, well, let's give Congress the authority. Let's give them this authority to keep us all safe, from these terrorists that are coming over here, taking over airplanes, crashing them into buildings. I think most everybody in America bought into that narrative. I think most everybody in America really thought that really happened, and that we were being attacked by all of this crazy religious fanatics. And so that's how they hooked us. That's how they got us. They got us to think that way, programmed us that way, so that when they introduced the Patriot Act, we all bit. We all said, yeah, heck yeah, I'll give up. Anytime that they ask us to give up a little bit of our liberties for a little bit of safety, from now on, LW, that is going to be a red flag for me. Anytime that they ask us to give up a little bit of our liberties for a little bit of safety, should be a huge red flag for every one of us here in America. That's why it didn't fly with me when it came to February of 2020, when they said, hey, we want you to give up a little bit of your liberty for a little bit of safety. If you put this little thing over your face, it's going to keep you safe. But we want you to do that. When they started enforcing the vacations in the army, we want you to take this because it's going to keep you safe. But I had no right to that. They told me I didn't have a right to make a decision for my own body. That was a huge red flag for me. So it's just things out there, folks, as we wrap this thing up, because I think she's 1, 2, 3 gone. Things that I want you guys to think about. Pre-crime and why are they not stopping the things that are going on here in America? It looks like Karen's back, so we'll try to wrap this up. And Karen, sorry for you dropping out, but what I was talking about, the data point that I was making, just to really quickly re-say it because I've been talking since we lost you, was this pre-crime. They're using these agencies, but why are they not stopping pre-crime like I said, I just read in the newspaper today 6 different articles where illegal aliens have been doing crimes here in America, not just 1 or 2, but multiple crimes. Why aren't they stopping those type of pre-crimes? And my final thought here, data point, was the Patriot Act. And how does that align with what we're talking about right now? Because as a young man, and 9/11 happened, I bought into the narrative that we needed to give up a little bit of our liberties for a little bit of safety with this Patriot Act. What say you, Karen?
Unfortunately, Benjamin Franklin addressed that, and he said whoever would give up a little, their freedom for a little bit of security deserves and will get neither. So that was a warning from the founding fathers a long time ago. To get back to the illegal immigrants, if you want to take over a society, a civilization, you have to have fear events. And if you have a protected section of the population, protected criminals that you allow to roam about and do what they want and scare the heck out of the population, you have a built-in fear factor. And with these people, if you try to go after them, you're a racist. So they are protected. And they are there to keep the American public in fear so that they can demand more protection for for less freedom. I mean,
there
they
you
decide.
Go. There you go. They do that so that we will allow them to take a little bit of our freedom, a little bit of our liberties for safety. We these people are bad, and we need to be able to introduce this or introduce that to protect you. And I was just making that point when we lost you, was as a young man, I bought into the Patriot Act. But as I matured and 2020 happened and they started wanting us to give up our liberties for a little bit of safety in the face coverings and the vacations that they wanted to put in our arms, I figured it out real quick. All this is an opportunity for them to chip away at the Constitution and to come after my liberties and my freedoms.
No, absolutely. I mean, they were saying, get your shot or you can't go back to going to restaurants. You can't go back to going to baseball games. You can't enjoy your life. And how many people committed suicide during that COVID lockdown, especially teenagers, especially, they need interaction. And so as far as I'm concerned, any suicide from that was murder, because kids don't have the capacity to be alone. They haven't developed that. So, I mean, we're just seeing it bit by bit taken away from us, and we have to decide when the time is to stand. I mean, right now, about Mar-a-Lago yesterday, is that a provocation point? Is that something they're doing, to turn something into making people upset, hoping that they'll overreact or react? Sometimes you're like, maybe that's not an overreaction, but they want us to react so they can say, oh, those people are crazy. They're threats to our democracy, which we don't even have anymore. And so we have to basically send people after them, like the FBI and the military. We need to just scoop them all up, and put them away, put them in camps, and get rid of anybody who doesn't support your political view. And because they're provoking people, they're trying to make an excuse to create martial law and get rid of political opponents. So I mean, this could be a huge trap with Trump, because it doesn't sound like it's legit, and they may try further things to try to provoke people, and so you have to be very careful that you don't. And I tell people this all the time. I tell the TIs, the targeted individuals, all the time. I said, don't run onto the battlefield without your army. Don't go running out there when you're ill prepared to deal with a mob. Basically strengthen yourself, buoy yourself, get allies, know who your friends are, and decide a course of action. Don't react, So I think we're going into a period where there's going to be a lot of provocation. So we have to be very careful, because the people who want to take over want us to do anything they can make into a threat so that they can come down on us hard.
And I did a video a few days ago called "Hold the Line." And that's exactly what I had put in that video is, hey, listen, I was stressing the fact that no matter what happened within a 72-hour period, whether Trump got arrested or didn't get arrested, or anyone else got arrested, don't buy into the narrative to get yourself pulled in or sucked into a vortex where you're out there protesting, you're armed, they want you to be armed, and then they turn it into another one of those J6 events, and round those people up and designate them with the title of domestic terrorist. I truly believe that some of that stuff is definitely by design, because they want to prey on people's emotional state. And so many people love President Trump that when he's attacked like that, the thing that they want to do is protect him. They want to stand up for him. They want to rise up, and rightfully so. I'm not discrediting the fact that we all feel that way, and that the man deserves our support. I'm just simply stating, be cautious about what you get involved in, because it's not that time. I've told people lots of times, you'll know when that time comes. There will be zero doubt. But don't allow people to manipulate you and pull on those emotional strings to get you to act like a puppet, to go do the things that they want you to do, so they can have a reaction as well.
Right, exactly. I mean, they're looking for anything to places under martial law and send people door to door to say, you have any guns? You know, because every time that happens in any nation, then the camps come. Once they give up their guns, then the camps come, because they can't do much of anything.
Absolutely. We've seen camps here in America. What they're used for, we don't know. There's been reports in Oregon, in New York State. We've actually had boots on the ground that went and actually put eyes on some of these camps. Are they using them concentration camps? Are they using them for people who don't buy into their ideology? I don't know what the camps are for. We still haven't technically figured that out, but they are out there. We've done shows on them, and you know, the affidavit mamas are definitely kind of paying attention to some of that stuff, and we just caution people. You know, it's possible that that they use some of those things for nefarious reasons, in my opinion. I actually dove into, what was it, the Green New Deal, and started looking into some of the things that they were promoting for camps, re-education camps right there in some suburbs. So, you know, this isn't just a bunch of science fiction that we've watched in a Star Trek movie. Some of this stuff, the documentation is out there, and we've actually dug it up and read it. So don't call us crazy yet. You might want to do some of your own research as well, and see if we are telling you the truth. It's out there. We found it, so we're just letting you guys know the information.
Now, there are FEMA camps. What are they going to be used for? And there are multi-person coffins. What the heck? You know, we're going to have a hurricane of strength 4,000 come through the United States, that we need multiple person coffins? I don't think so. I mean, they're telling you what they were preparing for. They're waiting to be able to provoke people into some kind of action that they declare is sedition, and then come after anybody who's not on their political side. You know, they're just baiting. They're just waiting and baiting.
Let me ask you one last question that I'd like for you to answer before we roll into final thought. The IRS has just now employed 87,000 new agents. There's some documentation that I was sent to me by a lot of viewers about in their dossier for the IRS. Basically protocols of what they expect from their employees. It went down through a list, and in that list, it stated you have to be in physical peak condition, and then right under that, it said you have to be willing to carry a firearm, and you have to be willing to use deadly force in any of your operations when you're out in the field, I guess. And then it's been said, and documentation that's been floating around, that the IRS has actually purchased multiple rounds of ammunition and or firearms. What's your thoughts on that, Karen?
Oh, it's very clear what they're prepping to do. I mean, they're prepping to come after political foes. Look at what happened in Cambodia. In Cambodia, they went through the country and they murdered anybody they even thought might be a political foe. In fact, one of the bizarre things they did was that if you wear glasses, they shot you. What was the logic in that? Because if you wear glasses, you might read, and reading's dangerous, so you're dead. I mean, they're making up their own criteria, and they're going to try to say you owe $1,000 or $10 or $10,000 or something, and then say, okay, well, Bill Smith is really he's a patriot. We have to find a reason to harass him, and maybe he'll slip up and do something we can shoot him for. If we harass him enough. No, it's provocation, and they're coming after you any way they can. They're making they call it lawfare, where you take law and misapply it, and it's warfare against somebody. And they're killing you with medicine, and they're going to be killing you with tax excuses. Anything they can think of, they're going to come after you as the group that they want to get rid of any way they can.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Karen. Here's one other data point before we roll into final thought. I just want you guys to realize 87,000 agents for the IRS. I know a lot of people believe the IRS has been dissolved and it doesn't exist any longer. I don't know until that day comes. I'm going to just be cautious about things, right? So that is more agents. I want you guys to realize that is more agents than we have on our southern border. And that should hit you hard. That should really make you think, why do we have more IRS agents than we have agents on our southern border? That just doesn't even logically make sense. Pay attention, folks. That's all I'm going to say is pay attention.
Yeah, they've made Americans into the enemy. The enemy. And I was going to say very quickly, a friend of mine's from New York State. She went back to visit. She found some land that was fenced off, barbed wire. And she said, what the heck is this? She went up to the edge to look around, and she said somebody came to talk to her, and it was a person who was Chinese, and he barely spoke English. And she says, what in the world is going on? So, I rather think, and I had read and heard that, of course, the New World Order is behind a lot of this, if not all of it.
Oh, yeah.
And the New Order has made a deal with China that they would be their enforcers, where China's like, yeah, sure, we will, until we get the upper hand, and then you'll be our slaves. So there's a quasi cooperative involvement there, but the Chinese are out for themselves. New World Order's out for themselves. So the only thing we can say is they're definitely both against us. And I've told people, I said, look, if China comes in and takes over, they don't need our population. They don't need our population. There'll be wholesale slaughter because they want the land, they want the water. We have the best potable water in the world, Canada, and we do. China has the least potable water, the least amount for that number of people. Their farmland is garbage. It's full of heavy metals. If you, I don't know if you saw the story about us sending whole chickens over to China for them to process them, kill them and cut them into pieces and send them back over the Pacific. What sense does that make? How much does that add to the cost? Well, you know what they're doing? They're basically keeping and eating our chickens, chopping up theirs that are full of heavy metal and sending it back.
That's something I'm going to have to check into. That's something I'm going to have to check into because I have heard of that before, Karen. That is something I've absolutely heard of, and what you say would make sense. So we got to wrap this up this evening, and I appreciate you joining us as always. What would you like to leave for your final thought tonight on, is there something that you want the audience to know or to take away, or is there some homework you want to give them, maybe a website or somewhere that you would send them to dig up some of this information that we're talking about? Monkey put out a website last week or week before about weather manipulation. And so I jumped on that website and started checking it out, and holy cow, talk about brain overload on all the information that was on that one website. Is there anything that you could share with our audience tonight that might point them in the direction that they can educate themselves on the stuff that you brought to our attention this evening?
You know, I'm all over the place with my research, so it's hard for me to point to anything specific. I mean, I do watch Monkey Works, and I will watch, you know, X22 and various other Q related or sympathetic broadcasts. So I pick up information from a lot, and when 2 or 3 of them say the same thing and they're not necessarily affiliated, it pricks up my ears. But I also, and this may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I also listen to certain Christian prophets. I would say Julie Green and Amanda Grace give a lot of detail. Some of the other ones I like too, but there's music and other things in it that kind of slow down the information transfer. But when I hear prophets who are saying something similar to what Q and sympathizers are saying, and I know they don't watch them because they try to keep off the internet because they don't want to pollute what they're saying. When I hear them overlap, then it keeps my ears attuned. I say, okay, that's a possibility. We'll watch for that. But what I'm getting from both sources is that we're going to go through a little bit darker period, but it's going to come out fantastic. So darkest before the dawn. So I don't want anybody to lose hope when things start to get hairy and a little scary in the next couple months, because it's just basically birthing pangs and things are being straightened out. So do your best to protect yourself, to prepare. I have gotten a lot of canned goods and a little hibachi just in case we lose electricity. And I've even gotten water filter, and I haven't forgotten my animals, you know. And I would get certain things, you know, like for your car, get extra oil in case that is not delivered. You know, you can't buy it anymore. Maybe new tires if you can afford it, and especially if we're going into hyperinflation and those $600 tires might be 12, you know, by November. Do what you can to get what you need now so you don't have to pay through the nose later, but do keep a little to the side, get some cash for emergencies, and do look at silver. If you have a certain amount of money, decide what can I put in silver, because the silver that's like $20 per coin, 1 ounce coin now, in 2 years, maybe 600 something. So, you know, the deep state has held down precious metals forever to control a fiat currency worth nothing.
Correct.
And so that's change, and that's going to be tumultuous. So people need to be prepared to basically stay at home, not go out and fight about toilet paper. You don't want to be killed for toilet paper, okay? So get yourself stocked up as much as you can. Look at that silver for later. If you can spare $1,000 out of 10, then buy silver with it, you know. Just try to prepare that way, and don't go out and get into any fray, because that's what they want you to do. And if you go out and yell at somebody, they may come after you and take your kids. So it's not worth it.
All right. Well,
so just be very conscious. Yep.
Thanks for that final thought, Karen. And to the metal point, if you guys are in the market for buying gold or silver, you can always reach Miles Franklin at info@milesfranklin.com. You can use promo code Liberty Warrior Nation. It does help this channel out, but I'm telling you, Andy and the team are professionals, great people to work with, and get it while it's hot. Get it while you can, because I do believe what Karen says. Not only is it a great investment and it is wealth, you can pass it on to generations, but just in case something happens, you have a couple of coins in your pocket. It may be worth a heck of a lot more than you anticipated. So don't forget to do that. Check them out. info@milesfranklin.com. Use promo code Liberty Warrior Nation. All right, Karen, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
I guess we'll catch you on the next one.
All right. God bless all of you.
God
Take
bless.
care.